Good evening. I would like to call the Government Services meeting for Monday, February 24th to order. Roll call, please.
Sakaitis? Folk?
Here.
Bongard?
Here.
Mund?
Here.
Lencioni?
Yes.
Gem?
Here.
Petrella?
Here.
Werbaugh?
Here.
Fessner?
Here.
Weber?
Here. Excellent. Thank you. We are all here. Item 4, the omnibus vote, please.
I'll make a motion.
Second. Moved by Weber, seconded by Werbaugh. Roll call, please.
Gem?
Yes.
Petrella?
Yes.
Werbaugh?
Yes.
Fessner?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Folk?
Yes.
Mund?
Yes.
Lencioni?
Yes.
Great. Okay, we're going to skip all the way down to item 5K. A recommendation to use hot dip galvanizing as the preferred rehabilitation method for Red Gate Bridge railings. These get longer every meeting. Every meeting they get longer.
We're just going to use the title for the whole presentation next time.
Appreciate it.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Since its construction in 2012, we've had an ongoing problem with rust on the guardrails on the Red Gate Road Bridge. So last year we had WBK Engineering go out and do an evaluation of the railings to determine what the cause of the problem was and to examine a number of solutions. And so their examination revealed that the original coating, the original painting on top of a non-galvanized surface did not bond properly. As a result, when you get chips from rocks or impacts or even during construction, you're left with unprotected metal exposed that is then subjected to rust, and then the rust continues to grow. They did look and find that there is no major section loss anywhere on the railings, and so it is not a safety hazard at this time. It is purely an aesthetic hazard, but will continue to persist. So they provided us with a technical memorandum looking into 4 major repair methods: powder coating, painting, hot dip galvanizing, and complete replacement of the railings. Based on our review of that technical memorandum and our conversations with WBK, we would like to recommend that the council approve us to move forward with design for hot dip galvanizing as the preferred treatment. And there's a number of reasons that we would like to do that. First is the longevity. Hot dip galvanizing can last 50 to 70 years, whereas other treatments can only last as long as 20 years. Second is the maintenance. During this time, hot dip galvanizing will require little to no maintenance. And so that doesn't shut down the bridge at any time, and that doesn't expose our crews to any hazards as they are working on that bridge. Third is the cost. Of the 4 methods, the 4 main methods examined, hot dip galvanizing is the lowest cost. Its cost comes in at less than half the cost of replacing all of the railings. And so it's a cost-effective treatment. And finally is constructability. The estimate is that it will take 3 months to do the work, which would allow us to plan the work for starting early summer, beginning and then finishing before school resumes in the fall to minimize impacts on school traffic and on buses. So what we're looking for at this time is approval to move forward with hot dip galvanizing for design. We would design in this coming fiscal year and then do construction in the following fiscal year. And so we're looking for approval to put out an RFP for consultants to look into design, and a large portion of that design will be the traffic control, trying to keep the bridge as open as possible, as free as possible for our constituents. Yes.
Dave.
2 things. So you'll be back then, and after May, after you do the RFP, you'll be back for approval of a budgeted item then for the next fiscal year. Is that
correct?
Okay. And then so just out of curiosity, this technology, why wasn't it used in the first place?
I do not know why they did not specify it in the first place. I'm guessing they were going for the aesthetic look of the paint, and they thought that the paint would provide a sufficient coating, but obviously, as we've seen, it did not bond properly. And if the original designers believed that the paint would be sufficient, they wouldn't want to double up on the cost by paying for galvanizing and paying for painting on top of it. Okay. But the technology existed, and it would have been a good option to use.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I have a couple of questions, and you may not know the answers to these, but I feel compelled to ask a couple of them. If it had been done correctly the first time, how long would that original method have lasted?
The estimates they're giving us for having redone it is 50 to 70 years, and so the entire design life of the bridge, it should have lasted, barring areas that are actually impacted by a car and would need to be replaced.
Okay, and so given that, like, how much do you estimate those were originally to put on there for the fabrication and the installation? Like, what are we now, I guess, paying for that wasn't done correctly in the first place?
Yeah, and I don't have that number. I could find it for you from the original work done in 2012, but I don't have that number. And
would we have been expecting the original designer or who would have been responsible for the quality control of that? It should have been the designer speccing it out properly, and then the engineering team actually overseeing the construction project to make sure that it was applied properly. And I assume that with it being, 2025 now, we are well beyond any kind of point in time where we can go back and hold anybody accountable for not having done the pieces of that. I would think so at this point. I think that's something that should have been pursued a long time ago. Okay. And am I correct in understanding with the description that you gave of how this dip works, that they're removing the rust, so we're not trapping that rust underneath and then having further degradation happen while that dip is on there, and it'll mitigate all of that? So the way it would work is they're going to pull the railings actually off of the bridge. They'll put up protection while it's going on. They'll remove the railings from the bridge. They'll take them to a plant where they will be chemically cleaned, scoured, the rust will be removed, and then they will actually be dipped so that the galvanizing, it's a nickel coating, will cover the entire inside and outside of the railings. Okay, that's fantastic. And I wanted to thank you also for giving the options that were on there so we could understand what sort of choices that we had, because I liked seeing that, and it gave a great picture of what we could do, but I appreciate that. Thank you very much for those answers.
Brian?
What do you anticipate the consulting cost to be?
We have $50,000 budgeted for that at this time.
Okay, and then the summary, do you anticipate those costs going up since it'll be 2 years from now that we're going to do the work, or do you think this is still in the ballpark?
I think they're still in the ballpark.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This one.
Sure.
And then the previous designer, contractor, or engineering team, is that someone we continue to do business with, or is that? Because that's some of, going off of Councilmember Munz's questions, those are the same questions I had. And I know we're outside of any kind of warranty period, but it just seems kind of like it wasn't done right in the first place, and hopefully we're not dealing with them.
Yeah, so a couple of knowledge points that I can provide in terms of the history on this bridge. I wasn't around when they bid the bridge out, but shortly after the city took it over, I did do one of the final inspections, and we were told at the time that hot dip galvanizing was eliminated from the scope of services on the Red Gate Bridge as a cost control mechanism. So at that time, someone made a decision to not dip the rails, hot dip galvanize the rails to save some cost.
Okay, but are we still dealing with this same designer or contractor or team?
The original designer did spec galvanizing, but it was removed at the city's request. At least this is the information that I was provided in order to save some cost. And so
okay, I guess my question is, do we still do business with this engineering team?
Yes.
Contractor? Okay.
The contractor we haven't done anything with in a while, but several of the engineers on that project team we still do business with, yes. But I think it's important to remember that they did specify hot dip galvanizing to begin with.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Steve?
Thank you, Chairman Bonker. It's not going to be red anymore. Do we have to rename this thing?
No.
It's not going to be red anymore, right?
That's a great point. So I don't know if anybody picked up on it, but part of the reason we're here tonight is to make sure that everybody understands that hot dip galvanizing will provide a different aesthetic. Currently, the bridges are red, to Alderman Weber's point, but they were originally painted a tan color, and so the option we're proposing to you all tonight is to field strip those, bring them back to the plant, prep them, hot dip galvanize them, and bring them back in that condition. And so therefore they will look hot dip galvanized, like the nickel coating, like Chris said. So so everybody understands they're not going to be tan anymore.
And just to finish up, it's a shame that obviously what had happened before happened, and we're having to deal with it now, I think prematurely. Too bad there's not a warranty or any recourse we can take, but at the end of the day, I drive on this bridge every single day. It doesn't look very nice right now. Obviously, it's functional and it's safe and it works, but it doesn't look very appealing. So I'm definitely in support of going this route because it's an answer for the next 40 or 50 years. So I'm in support of it.
Mark?
Yeah, thank you guys for taking this and finding us the best option. And I just want to make sure that we have some type of warranty assurance. If something does happen, that it doesn't fall back on us, as this one kind of has. This sounds like the best option. I'd hate for like 8, 10 years from now something to pop up and it's like, hey, now it's on the city. Are they providing this? You say the life is 50 to 70 years, but if something does go wrong, is there something in place that you know of that'll say, yes, it is covered at no cost to us?
That's something that we can write into the specs when we actually do the final plan. And so
I think that needs to be written into the specs so we are not in this position 12, 13 years from now.
That's definitely something that we can write into the specifications when the construction time comes.
Thank you.
Kind of along these points, I guess, in defense of the contractor, if I'm hearing correctly, it wasn't their fault. We told them not to do it, correct? So I just want to, I think hopefully we all understand that. I don't want to dunk on the contractor over here or whoever that may be, but yeah, we certainly need to have language like that, but at the end of the day, we said not to do it, correct? Is that what I'm hearing? Okay, so. Yeah, that's the. So it wasn't their fault.
It wasn't a design issue. It wasn't necessarily a construction issue. It was a cost savings issue, and sometimes when you save money, you win, and sometimes you don't. And correct. In this case, we did not.
You good?
David basically said what I was going to say.
I think we're all, so can somebody tell the safety or the hazard optically on that bridge? So I know, we've gotten a lot of calls about, it doesn't look good, is it safe? But is it possible to be able to ensure the safety just optically, somebody looking at that bridge or.
Yeah, we've had two different engineers two different engineering teams go out and inspect the bridge, and both of them came to the conclusion that the railings are safe, that there's not enough missing in the areas that are rusted. Either the holes or the depth of the rust is not significant enough to impact the safety of the bridge.
Sorry, this came up in my mind.
That is an inspection with the bridge shoulder closed, walking and looking at each piece. It's not at a car speed. It is a walking speed inspection.
It kind of sounds stupid. Sorry. Okay, nickel. It'll look nickel finish. You mentioned it's not going to be red. Is it going to be shiny nickel? Like, are people going to be blinded by the sun hitting it?
It should be more of a matte gray.
Okay,
and we actually did this. We did this treatment. If you go. We had a similar guardrail with a similar issue on the east end of Prairie Street, right on Riverside. Mm-hmm. And we took off that guardrail in 2021. We stripped it and we hot dip galvanized it.
Oh, okay.
And so that's right near homes. We've never had any complaints. And so it's more of a matte gray. But if you drive down Riverside tomorrow, you can see what it would look like.
All right.
Move for approval.
Second.
Moved by Brian, seconded by Dave. Roll call, please.
Gem,
Yes.
Petrella,
Yes.
Wirball,
Yes.
Fester,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Folks,
Yes.
Lund, Lencioni.
Yes.
Thank you, that passes. Moving along, item 5L, presentation of the 2025 street program.
Jim, do we have slides for this one? A couple of PDFs? Okay, well, they're in your packets.
We see them.
Okay, so long as everyone can see them. So I'd like to take a moment to talk with everyone about the 2025 street program and go over quickly, as we do this time each year, just how we choose roads, what we do with roads, and what roads we are doing this year. So I'll keep the presentation pretty quick. I believe you've heard this before. Well, there's a number of things we evaluate when we are choosing roads for our road program. One of them is condition. We get the road scanned every 5 years, laser scanned, to determine the condition of the surface, and they also do a falling weight deflectometer to determine the condition of the base. That tells us what roads we have in town that are in what condition, and they're rated on a scale of 0 to 100. A number of things cause a road to deteriorate more quickly. The weather, the traffic to which it's subjected, obviously something in an industrial area that's getting heavy trucks is going to fall apart faster than a cul-de-sac with passenger cars. And so there are a number of factors that contribute to the deterioration of a road, and we have had them all scanned so that we know where each road is at. One thing to keep in mind is as a road deteriorates, it will start deteriorating faster and faster as the condition declines. And so we have a mixture of roads in our program, some of them that are in obviously very poor condition, and some of them that look like they are in okay shape. It's cheapest to get the road before it starts a significant decline. And so we try and blend in our program both roads that haven't fallen apart yet and roads that are in significantly worse shape. Once we've chosen a couple of roads, we try and group them throughout the city. Every neighborhood in the city has some roads that need work. And by doing a bunch of roads that share similar locations, we're able to limit the amount of mobilizations that the contractor does, and that saves us costs that we can put back into our program. So you'll see large spans of roads done in similar areas. Third, we try and coordinate with the other divisions of public works to make sure that we are doing roads that are not going to then be turned around and ripped up for utility work. Right now with the lead line program, that means we're doing a lot of roads that are in kind of newer areas as the lead line program gets laid out, because we don't want to resurface a road now and 2 years from now have it dug up to do lead lines. So we're trying to focus this year, like last year, on neighborhoods that don't have lead lines. And finally, after adopting the bike and pedestrian plan, we are looking at complete street elements. What can we add that improves bike and pedestrian infrastructure through town? So these are the main things that we look at when choosing the streets. We use a number of different treatments as we are maintaining the roads in town. Some are preventative maintenance, and then some are what you'll see in the road program. We have an annual crack filling program that seals off the edge line, seals off the center lines of roads and any surface cracks that may have formed. This keeps water out of the roadway base. When you have water in the road base, the road falls apart more quickly and you end up with potholes. And so we crack fill regularly to make sure that water stays out of the base. We also have 3 different kinds of patching that the Public Service Group does. There's full depth patching, which involves milling out the pavement and doing a 2-inch to 4-inch patch new asphalt in a smaller area. This is on a road that might have an isolated problem but is not ready for a full resurfacing yet. There's total patching, which involves spraying bitumen and aggregate on the road, and it's again not a permanent patch, but it lasts a little bit longer, and you'll see that during warmer weather. Right now what you see is the patches that nobody loves, the cold patch put into a pothole, but that's what we can do in these weather conditions, and those are the most temporary of the patching. As part of our roadway program, we don't do any of those sorts of patching. We focus on resurfacing, base reclamation, and reconstruction. Resurfacing is removing either a portion of the asphalt, 2 to 4 inches, or all of the asphalt on some roads and putting new asphalt down. This is if the stone underneath has a sufficient base to support the road. Base reclamation is a process that we use often in our industrial areas where there is an old base that was used in the 70s called a pozzolanic base. It was determined to weaken when it gets wet, which is not what you want for a road base, and so it was supposed to be a concrete-like base, and it has since completely been ceased in its use, but we still have some roads in town that were built with that. So what we do is we mill off the asphalt, we dump powdered cement on top of it, grind 12 inches of powdered cement into the existing base and basically make a concrete base for the road, and then pave on top of that, and that fixes the problem. The third treatment is full reconstruction. This is where we pull out the existing asphalt and the existing stone. We do this where there's deeper base problems or on some streets where there is insufficient stone. The road wasn't built strong enough to begin with, and now we're bringing it up to full strength where it should have originally been designed. And again, you see this on some of our older roads.
So those are our treatments. That brings us to the map that you have. Looking at it, you can see how we have done roads all throughout town. We've got industrial roads, and we've got collectors, mainline roads for a lot of traffic, but also just smaller residential streets and cul-de-sacs, a variety of them. Like I said, every road in town, or not every road in town, but every area could use some care, and so we're trying to find a wide variety of care. The map is color-coded. You can see that orange is using our motor fuel tax, and that's about 2.9 miles of road this year. The home rule tax is the blue streets. That's about 10.9 miles of roads that we're looking at doing with that. And then there's a capital project on the east side of town in the industrial area at Stern and Stetson, which is a base reclamation. And then finally, there's the Prairie Street project, which is between Randall and 13th. Environmental Services did the water main and sanitary sewer through there last year in preparation for this road project. This road project is partially capital funds, but is also covered by $500,000 in state grants. And so that will be starting in May. We'll take off the temporary surface that exists there right now and put down a permanent surface with permanent striping that's going to increase the visibility and fix the drivability issues that we have there right now. The last page in this presentation is simply covers the bike markings that we're putting down. Anything in blue is where we're placing sharrows on the road to draw attention to the fact that these are bicycle routes as designated in the bike and pedestrian plan. And then there are also a couple of streets over specifically around Fox Chase and Stonehenge where we're putting in full bicycle lanes in any area that does not require removing parking. We did not take any parking away for these bicycle lanes, but where parking is already restricted, we felt it prudent to put full bicycle lanes in place. So that is our program for this year. We will be going out to bid hopefully early March, and then I'll be up here again once we have a contractor chosen and all of that for approval. So.
Thank you. Questions, comments? Yeah.
Chris, this is excellent, so thank you again for doing all that and explaining the difference between the different color codings with the MFT. And one of the questions I had that came up at a Third Ward resident meeting back last September is the striping of streets a different program than when we do this?
Touch-up striping is a different program.
It is, okay.
Yeah, so we will stripe the streets that we resurface. We will redo the striping on those, but otherwise that's a maintenance program rather than a capital project.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, in the memo, it mentions roughly 4 miles. So would you say that because of the home rule, I mean, we're doing significantly more based on what you mentioned, right?
Yes, I didn't catch that. I noticed it today. But yes, that's the old number from before the home rule tax. So yes, that was a typo.
Oh, no, I was just curious, and I applaud that we did that because that obviously makes we get more done. So that's helpful to know. On this real quick too, regarding the color coding, you mentioned motor fuel tax, capital, what have you, home rule. Mm-hmm. So those you determine, is it based on condition, like what goes into each one of those categories? Like there's quite a bit of blue. Does the home rule tax pay for more just sort of top coat, or how do you determine what color, is that?
In the end, it's just all getting bid as one program, and it's the colors were just chosen based on here's my estimated cost versus the estimated budget, and then I lumped them together so that they were in neighborhoods rather than picking a street here and there to be MFT versus another street being home rule tax. So really what's most indicative is just the quantity of home rule tax versus MFT.
This is a good segue. So I think where David's going with this is how much of what's in blue, if we didn't have that increase to the home rule tax, if you didn't have that, how much of what's in blue would actually be getting, would be realistic being tackled this year?
If we didn't have the home rule tax money?
If you didn't have the change,
if the home rule tax money went away, the blue streets would all go away.
Okay.
Everything that our budget would then be our MFT and capital budgets, which is what we worked with before, and that's the orange, the purple, and the green. So that's what we were working with before the home rule tax.
Cool. Gotcha. That makes sense.
Thanks. Question for you. I know the Fourth Ward has a lot of lead service lines, and you want to tear up the street, redo it, and then tear it up again. So there's one location that, if you just could take a look at it, is 3rd Avenue and Park Avenue, where a lot of bikers go up and down that street. And for the last 3 or 4 years, residents up there have been asking to have that intersection redone, not necessarily the entire street, because there's some big gaps with the concrete and stuff like that, and there's a lot of bikers. So if you can just take a look at that and see what you can do, I appreciate it.
Certainly.
Thank you.
So one more question. Are there different approaches to how, so the methodology, how we measure road, is that just the standard, approach that most municipalities use, or is that kind of what we've always done and, we've never looked at doing something different?
You're talking about the condition rating?
Yeah, how you do the ratings, how we go and assess, how we go through, is that?
It's standard.
That's pretty much.
Yeah, it's an industry standard.
So if I lived in Aurora, that would be, what Aurora?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, anywhere in Illinois, they're going to use the same scale. There's two different scales. One is from 0 to 10, and the other is from 0 to 100, but they line up to be about the same thing.
Okay. Anything else?
Move for approval?
Second.
There's no, it's just a presentation.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Presentation, never mind.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sorry.
Go forward, we approve.
Yes, thank you, Chris.
Committee approves. Moving on, item 5M, a recommendation to approve a resolution awarding the bid for a wastewater treatment chemical. Good evening, Mr. Wilson.
So this year we tried a new bidding process. It's similar to if you're online bidding, like on eBay, where you see a product and you're competing against someone and you're putting in a price. But what's called is reverse bidding. So how it worked is we advertised the product. It's ferric chloride. We use it at the wastewater treatment plant. There was 2 vendors that were interested. They actually bid against each other. Instead of the price rising, the price actually declines. It's actually a very successful bid. Like I said, it's our first time trying it. I will have to say kudos to Miranda Holloway, our purchasing manager in Public Works. She did a great job. She came up with this idea. She's seen a couple of our communities in the Fox Valley were trying it out. She approached our group and made a recommendation. We said, well, let's try it out, and we have a very successful bid. We end up driving the price down this year on ferric chloride versus last year based on our usage. We have wet weather, dry weather. We're estimating we're going to save the city about $92,000 this year. Any questions?
Why for proposed cost does it say not available?
Because the unit cost. So what we do for unit cost projects, stuff like this for like chemicals, we give you the budget. So our budget for this year is $182,000. And again, based off water usage or wastewater usage, that proposed cost will go up and down. We can see as much as a 20% swing if we have wet weather season. So we really don't know what the overall cost will be. It's all weather dependent. That's why we leave that area blank. We always are asking for, you'll notice in the approval, is we're actually asking for the unit cost approval for the chemical.
I guess then my follow-up question is, what was our unit cost last?
Our unit cost last year was $2.73 per gallon.
Okay.
And our unit cost
I guess
this
I'm
year
just trying to
is $2.39 per gallon.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for saving us some money from the original bid. I move that we do everything in the reverse auction format. Would be great. I know it's not possible, but I like the format. Thank you.
Yeah. So just real quick note on that. We do, as part of the process, and I could explain this a little more, and I'm going to take up everyone's time tonight. We do, as part of the process, put out there if there's any interest. So we put all our chemicals out. There was only interest in one chemical to do the reverse auction.
Why?
Just vendors. If vendors may not want to, depending on the market, depending on other strategies where that vendor may have, there's just no one else that wanted to kind of offer that process.
With the budgeted amount, where did you get that number from, though? Is it based off a 5-year period, a 10-year period?
That's based off the new numbers, the newer lower costs that came in, and it's based off our average usage basically off of last year's numbers, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Moved by Steve, seconded by Brian. Roll call, please.
Ham,
Yes.
Petrella.
Yes.
Wirball,
Yes.
Fessner,
Yes.
Weber,
Yes.
Folds,
Yes.
Munn,
Yes.
Montioni.
Yes.
Thank you, that passes. Moving on, item 5N, a recommendation to approve a resolution awarding the bid for Woods of Fox Glen electrical repairs.
So we have a lift station up in the subdivision of Woods of Fox Glen. It's in Glenbar Court. It's actually kind of hidden around a bunch of bushes and trees. The electric panel has come to age, and is needing replacement. In fact, we have, out of 2 pumps that are there, we're only able to run 1 pump because the electric panel has become so poor. We've had a lot of maintenance over the last year trying to keep it up and running. So we went out to bid for replacement of this electrical panel. As you see, we had a wide variety of bids come in. It is over budget. The lowest proposed bidder was AEEA Electrical Contracting. They have done work for us in the past with other motor starters and other larger electrical components at the wastewater water treatment facilities. They are a good contractor. We are recommending moving forward. How we're going to cover the costs. We have some savings in that same line item on some other projects that will transfer over to this project to help cover some of the expenses. As far as timeline, as you see, we recently just bid this. I haven't had an opportunity to meet with the contractor to figure out the exact timeline, the exact start. That's something we'll be working on in the next couple months. Once we have that information, we'll be meeting with the court to talk about the disturbance. There will be some disturbance. We are going to unfortunately, move some of the landscaping. We'll have to put it back after we're all done. But we'll clearly communicate with a couple of the homes that are in the area.
Is that included in the budget for the project?
Yes, yes. Yep.
Steve?
Tim, I don't know if you know the answer, but earlier in the meeting, on the omnibus vote, item 5A, the sale of surplus and obsolete transmission and distribution electrical equipment, what do you anticipate you'll be getting for that?
I have no clue.
Okay.
No clue.
Yep.
That's electric.
All that money can go
Yep.
towards that, yeah.
When you do this project, will the entire neighborhood be out of power, or is it just a few people?
No. This lift station will lose power, and actually we designed it so we can continue to run the lift station. We'll lose power to the lift station for a day, just that station itself, while we transfer power over to a new control panel. That control panel only controls and operates the motors and the lift station itself.
Okay.
And just, again, for clarification, a lift station, it moves the sewage, correct?
Yeah. So it takes sewage from a low-lying area and pumps it to a higher elevation so that it can solely make it by gravity to the wastewater plant. We have 17 lift stations throughout the city.
Mr. Foltz?
How are we so far off on budgeted amount?
Just costs. I mean, electrical components right now, it's such a wide variety of costs you get. We come up with these cost estimates a year out when we're, right now I'm putting together budget numbers for projects I'm bidding a year from now, 6 months from now. There's such, the volatility in the market, the overages and costs and everything. It's just driving some numbers up.
Okay.
So we don't like to be the low bidder, but unfortunately sometimes we are the low bidder.
Sure. Just looking at the $60,000 difference, Mr. Hanna, are you comfortable to say there's money there to cover from, like he says, those projects to cover this, so we're not in trouble, so to say?
I haven't had, unfortunately, for Bill's sake, I haven't had that conversation with him and show him where I'm stealing the money from, so let me have that conversation with him so he can clearly answer that question, so.
I just want to make sure citywide
He's not stealing money from anywhere. It's coming from our
No,
electrical fund, which is very sustained.
I think stealing the money isn't the best way to put it, but just knowing all the conversations we've had up here about budget and knowing that costs are what they are, just want to make sure that we're still going in the direction that, Mr. Hanna, you put it in and had us going. So that's just where I'm going with that question. That's all.
I'll take it a step further, because several of us are having this conversation about, okay, so it's $70,000 more than was originally budgeted. This is, we're not sure what we're going to spend. I know we've talked in the past about, is it, can you get quarterly updates? When it comes to Public Works, it's like, yeah, it's budgeted, and where are we at in that cycle of, well, it's February 24th, we're at 25% of our forecasted spend. We know, we've got, construction season and roads, but I think the reaction from most people up here is we want to do the work that needs to get done. At the same time, going, $70,000 is not budgeted. The gut reaction from, 10 people is, I'm probably a no until you can explain it. But there's this sense of, well, it's budgeted. How do we move forward with having better understanding up here of we've set Public Works at, I'm making this up, $10 million. We're at 3.2 and it's June 5th. Don't throw a party yet. We've got all this work that has to get done, just so we feel a bit, but we know that there's gonna be potentially unbudgeted things and stuff that comes up, but just a little bit of that sense of knowing exactly where we are.
So how I work it, I'll just take a shot at this and just for 2 seconds. What normally we do is larger projects. I have some of the largest in the city. We work with our engineers right before we go to bid. We try to get an estimate. We look at local bids to try to get a feel what the market's at. If we have any feel that it's going to be over budget, then we have a clear conversation with Bill and his team to figure out if we want to even go out to bid. If there was a real situation, I think like we would normally do, we would come in front of City Council and say, hey, we're about to go out to bid for a $15, $17, $5 million project. We're seeing it's going to cost us $6 or $7 million. We try to make the City Council aware of that before. For smaller stuff like this, and I hate to say it's smaller, but it is kind of smaller for some of the work we do. And it's kind of unique. Sometimes, the engineers are looking at some local bids and saying, oh yeah, it's looking like we're going to be okay. We're going to be within that, we try to be within that 2% of our budget amount. And sometimes the contractors maybe, they're seeing a lot of work right now. They decide to raise their prices a little bit, or they're seeing something we're not seeing in electrical components and coming up, so they might have to raise their prices.
And I'll just, if I'm speaking out of turn, please stop me, but I think the balance between, this body feeling like we don't want to micromanage every single line item budget, at the same time also not feeling like you're a rubber stamp for, well, it's $60,000 more than we thought, well, we got to approve it because it's budgeted, and just kind of feeling like it's an old town that needs a lot of work, and that work's only going to get more expensive every single year. So how do we go about that process of prioritizing the things that we have to do? So I appreciate it. Anybody else?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Steve, seconded by Brian. Roll call, please.
Camp?
Yes.
Petrella?
Yes.
Corbach?
Yes.
Fessner?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.
Pope?
Yes.
Klein?
Yes.
Montioni?
Yes.
Thank you, that passes. Moving on to item 6, public comment. Yeah. Just your name for the record.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
My name's William Schroeder. I just wanted to provide a couple of comments. Thank you to Public Works for thinking ahead about the Red Gate Bridge. Those guardrails have been deteriorating for quite a long time. Just for the benefit, I work in construction, some of the similar backgrounds where you all come from. When you're going through the RFP, I think there should be some testing services involved. I think of it as kind of like a belt and suspenders role. That would include testing out in the field, testing at the shop where they're doing the zinc coating, testing out in the field. If the engineer would look at it, you have to have a belt and suspenders role. You have I think it was 2010, just a simple search when Mayor DeWitt did the ribbon cutting on the bridge. And 15 years is pretty premature for that type of situation. One of the things that you kind of look at something, you just watch, right? Brine solutions, assaulting of bridges. Brine solutions have been used more and more, and it's very preventative, it's very helpful. But you have freeze-thaw, and you're spraying this on surfaces, tracking it, spraying it over the guardrail. If you do a simple search and find out, and it happens predominantly in Florida or other areas where there's seawater, it's called splash zones. Basically, all the saline splashes on it, and no matter how you maintain it, if you don't put any type of coating on top of hot galvanized, it's going to deteriorate. So however you come together with that RFP, if you do a search just on American Galvanizers Association, there's a white paper from 2011 just on their website. And it actually explains what happens if you do not epoxy and paint on top of the hot dip galvanized. Hot dip galvanized is really, eventually it's going to be a sacrificial coating if you don't put an epoxy or paint on top of it. So what's going to happen is another 15 years right now, if that does not get maintained regularly with a cycle with the bridges, you're going to have the same problem. So it's something to think ahead. Some of the feedback about the bike markings, if you look at was how they were sprayed on the pavement. I'm not sure if there was two different crews that sprayed them, but you had offsets. You had different patterns. So it's something from a quality standpoint. As they're doing those markings on the pavements, they should take note of those. And for the benefit of council members with the electric background and just seeing some of the components that have been ordered in the past, COVID has done justice for no construction components on anything. You look at the cost, even budgeting out a year or two, even with engineers' estimates, I'm seeing 100%, 200% on electric panel boards, all of, if you can get it. I've actually seen certain construction projects, some of the panel boards on like 2,000 amps, 3,000 amps, 30-month lead times, if you can find it. So this is a wild card for the benefit of the council, so I would agree with you on that. So thanks for your time.
Thank you. Great, thank you.
Anyone else? No? Item 7, any additional items from the committee? No? I have one. So if you haven't checked your email yet, there is an update, the IMEA Q&A from Pete. So the idea is to obviously review that. I'm sure there'll be additional questions and conversation, and we'll pick that topic up, I believe, next month, hopefully with the study that was completed by Naperville. So there'll be more to review on that. We do not have an executive session tonight, so I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This meeting is adjourned.